Welcome to Something for the Turbo, the new weekly podcast brought to you by Unfound, the global platform for the travel-loving cyclist. Welcome to the show. Today I'm joined by Rob McManmon. Rob is the founder of Bike Tour Japan. He's been running tours all over Japan for a number of years now. We have a chat about how he ended up in Japan and what makes Japan such a spectacular place to go ride your bike. Before we kick on, if you haven't yet, please do give us a rating for the podcast, leave a review, tell your friends, spread the word. We'd really appreciate any help you can give us with that. And of course, as ever, download the Unfound app and join the global cycling community today. Enjoy the conversation. Rob, thank you very much for joining us today. I've obviously introduced you prior. How are you doing? You well?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jules. I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Yeah, surviving. But before we sort of get talking about all things Japan and cycling there, it'd be great to find out a little bit more about yourself and your background and how you ended up in Japan and setting up Bike Tour Japan.
Yeah, well, I don't know how far back to go exactly on this, but my background in cycling really started off with getting a 10-speed back when I was in college as a means of commuting between our two campuses.
Where was college?
College was at the Eastman School of Music in Rochester, New York.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
Yeah. It was a music conservatory. So I'm a classical guitarist by training. And it was a means of actually taking classes at the main university, the University of Rochester, which was maybe 2-3 miles away. And there was a nice bike path. And I figured rather than driving, I would try biking between the two campuses. And so I picked up a 10-speed at a garage sale and kind of took off from there, and it kind of stoked my interest in just riding further and further than just the bike path. And that's what first got me really hooked on cycling. So fast forward a little bit, I go graduate college. And when I graduated college, kind of was at that point, took cycling all the way to the point of joining the bike team and racing through college. So I was racing and I decided that I would put my energy into racing and moved down to Austin, Texas, raced there for a season. And after that, applied for some jobs teaching music and saw this opportunity in Japan to teach abroad and thought it looked like a really cool opportunity. So that's what brought me over to Japan first.
And in terms of, let's go back to New York. I mean, what's the riding like in New York? I've obviously done a few work trips there and I'm sure a lot of people have been on holiday, but there's some good riding just outside the city, I understand.
Yeah, I'm originally from upstate New York, so quite a ways north in Syracuse, which is about dead center of the state if you were to drop a pin. And the riding in Syracuse and then also Rochester, where I was at school, is actually quite good, I think. The temperature and the weather can be a bit miserable at times. It's very much like England kind of weather where, you get lots of cold, rainy days or a lot of snow up there as well in the winter. But
I was surprised at just how cold it was when I went to New York in November. I mean, I was pre-warned, but I saw the temperatures, but it's not until you're there. It's like this dry, it's a bitter cold, isn't it? It chills you to your bones.
Yeah, and it's always windy and like the wind chill just brings it down another 10 degrees.
So a bit warmer down in Austin, Texas?
Oh yeah, that was, it's quite funny. I graduated in a 4.5-year program. So I finished and graduated in December. Had Christmas with the family, and then promptly moved down to Austin right after Christmas and left just as a blizzard was coming in. And when I arrived, I was hanging out with my friend on his porch, and it must have been like 60 degrees and sunny.
Very nice. And what kind of riding and racing were you doing down there? Was it mainly road or?
Yeah, it was road racing. I joined a team there and got up to, I don't know if you know the US category system.
Yes.
Yeah, so I ended up racing there up to a 3 and then was trying to get my points to a 2. And then this opportunity came up. So yeah, it was all road. I really preferred the road races, but they had a lot of crits down there as well.
Yeah, a lot of fun. I love a good crit. And so obviously you decided to move to Japan. Had you traveled much before? Had you been to Asia before? Had you been to Japan before?
Yes, no. I had traveled. in college. I got I got an Erasmus scholarship to go study in the UK actually for one semester. Wow. Yeah, it was at do you know the Royal College of Music in London?
Yeah. And did you ride when you were over here? Did you do much cycling?
Oh, just the Boris bikes.
Okay, yeah. Very good.
Good. Yeah, no, I took a Boris training. Yeah. I lived kind of on the north side of Hyde Park with a family in their kind of in-law unit and taught the kids music in exchange for my room and board. Yeah, and so I would rent the Boris bikes on the north side and ride it across Hyde Park to commute to school.
But you hadn't been to Asia before Japan.
No, yeah, never to Asia. So aside from England, I had only been domestic in the US.
Well, I absolutely adore Japan. It's an incredible country, but quite a place to go to for your first time in Asia, I think.
Oh yeah, it was eye-opening. The first few weeks there, it felt like you're on another planet.
Yeah. So were you in Tokyo? I mean, were you teaching as what took you to Japan in the first place?
Yeah, it was the teachings. Or what would you say? Sorry, an alumni of my school started a program over here out in a farther away prefecture called Gunma, which is maybe like 2 prefectures from central Tokyo. And so he was expanding his program and they were looking for more teachers. So that was the job. And I was teaching in like a middle school, high school setting. And when I came in though, I kind of went through Tokyo, but the area I was in was much more small town, not necessarily like real small town, but like a smaller city style living.
Yeah. Is it a commuter town? Do people commute into Tokyo from there?
Yeah, there's an express train that's about an hour 10 direct to the center of Tokyo. So there are commuters. Wow. Most of them are kind of people that I think are looking to retire out that way.
And that's where you are now, right?
Yeah, I'm actually one city over, but the same prefecture.
And how did you start cycling there straight away, or how did that come about?
Yeah, So when I flew over, I boxed up my race bike. At the time, I had a Cervelo S5, and so I put the thing in a cardboard box, and it was basically like my only luggage other than my backpack flying over. Some of the teachers
not even
saw
the guitar.
No, that's because the school said they were gonna. They had guitars, and they were starting like kind of a guitar program, so they were gonna purchase more. So I kind of was gonna be gifted one to use, essentially.
So I love how the bike took priority.
Yeah, I should have seen that as a warning sign.
Yeah, exactly. So sorry, I interjected. Carry on.
Oh yeah. So I flew over with the bike, and when I first was moving here, at the time I was using Strava to record my rides and all. And so I thought, I'll go on Strava and go look at what's around me, what's going to be around this place. And I immediately noticed there were just these huge climbs in the area and thought, right, I got to go tackle one of these each weekend. And so it kind of, every free moment I had, would try to go out on some bike adventure.
And did you did you do any racing? Is there a racing scene? How does it work?
Yeah, there's a racing scene. I did 2 races while I was here, one on a bike, one running. They have hill climbs. Those are really, really popular here. And they do them like pretty large hill climbs. We're talking like 1,000-meter gain, up mountains. And they do a mass start style.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds fun.
Yeah. So like the Japanese national team like sent out a bunch of people, and they're like leading the front of the group, and there's probably 4,000 people with you. And I did one of those. Yeah, it's massive. So that was good fun. I do know there's a race scene here, but I was never really into that with the full-time job and just kind of more exploring.
But certainly cycling is definitely part of the culture there. It's quite a big cycling community, certainly the bits of Japan I've been to.
Yeah, and really cycling is something that it seems like everyone grew up with here too. Like, especially out here in the more countryside areas, everybody's riding a bike as a kid for middle school and high school to commute. So they're really conscious of having cyclists around them.
And would you say that the cars are more aware of cyclists because of that?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a factor of it. They're very safe drivers here. They tend to prioritize safety as a culture a lot. But I think especially the fact that they're used to seeing so many kids out there. And I mean, even people commuting to work, you'll see it in Tokyo a lot as well. So I do find they're really safe around cyclists.
And I've obviously seen the roads are absolutely immaculate, aren't they? Superb quality of roads.
Yeah, I've certainly pondered why it is that they're that nice. I mean, I get asked that quite a bit. And especially out here, we'll be in these tiny forest roads where you won't see a car for hours, and you'll be thinking, how is this pavement so good? And my only logical conclusion is that their standard for the pavement is so high for all their roads, and just no one drives on them with anything heavy. I mean, they have these little cars here that most people are driving out in the countryside that can't weigh a quarter of what an American car would weigh. So it's not doing nearly the damage, is my guess.
So they haven't got the amount of traffic, but the weather's pretty extreme, right? So they do get the extreme winters, but they seem to fare so much better, the road quality or the road surface.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We just had snow up in our mountains again this last weekend. You could be mid-April and you're still getting snow in the mountains at only like 1,000 meters above sea.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And yet, actually, we had snow last month. That would have been March, and we're only at 550 meters above sea here where we live. Yeah. But I agree. I don't actually know why it is that they're able to withstand the weather, because they also get torrential rain during the summer.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, they seem to have sussed that pretty well. And I understand that there's this amazing network of bike paths in Japan as well. Do they have them around where you are, or have you explored any of those?
Yeah. There's kind of it's really incredible, the bike paths here, especially for kind of people who just want to go for long, steady rides. We are right on what's called the Watarase River, and that's about 10 kilometers north of the Tone River. And both of those start basically at our town here, Kiryu in Gunma, and they head all the way out to the ocean, some 200 kilometers away or so.
You can go all the way to the ocean. That's nuts.
Oh yeah, nonstop to the ocean. You might have to occasionally cross a road, but most of the time there's underpasses for the roads too, and it's just like a cycling path all the way along the river.
That's amazing. I'm very envious of that, indeed. So you mentioned the weather there. I mean, in terms of times of year to come to Japan, or what are the sort of best times to come?
Yeah, it's a really large country. It has like way up in the north, we've got Hokkaido. Way down south, you've got like Okinawa. So there's definitely different times for different places. But on the mainland of Honshu, Tokyo, Osaka, Kyoto, all of those areas, you're really looking at wanting to come, in my opinion, to cycle in the spring and the fall.
Okay.
Yeah.
Summer's too hot there?
Too hot. Humidity is really the problem. Then when it's not hot and humid, it's probably raining really hard.
Okay, so it's the wet season. Okay, fair enough. And during that summer period, are there other parts of Japan that are better to cycle?
Yeah, summer is the prime time to be in Hokkaido, way up north there, or Aomori, which is like the north tip of the main island. So if we're talking like months, whereas the US or the UK might be saying that summer could be like June, July, August, maybe September, that's about right for Hokkaido. Okay. But around here in the main island, our spring really is like mid-March to mid-June. And then our fall is like mid-September to actually December. Like you can ride here to the end of December and it's still really sunny. Highs will be 10 to 15 Celsius, low of 0 maybe.
Okay, that's perfect. And with regards to Hokkaido, have you done much cycling up there yourself?
No, I haven't done much myself yet. We've got some trips lined up in the books to do that. And one of our guides is actually really big in Hokkaido because he also does backcountry guiding up there. So he's kind of been our point of contact. Yeah, he guides like backcountry ski and snowboarding.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So talk me through those trips then. What can someone expect? How long are they for? Or do you tailor them, or do you do both? You have tailored trips as well as sort of group trips that people can join. How does it work with Bike Tour Japan?
Yeah, we have group trips as well as bespoke trips that we do. Our group trips are typically in the 7 to 8 day range, and it's a set itinerary. It's kind of our top recommendations of each area. And we kind of work our way in the spring from the south up to the north, and then in the fall from the north down to the south, try to follow the weather. And it's basically chasing the cherry blossoms and the spring blossoms all the way up, and then chasing the fall foliage all the way down.
And typically, what does a tour normally consist of? I mean, I think, and this is something that I wanted to bring up with you because it's something that I'm a strong believer in as well. I mean, there's obviously some incredible cycling to do, but one of the wonderful things about Japan is just it's such a unique country and has so much to offer, from food to just the culture and some of the things you can see there. So it's more about creating an all-round experience. But for someone that's coming from the US or from the UK, Australia or Europe or within Asia itself, what can one expect on a trip that's different to maybe going somewhere else, say?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, aside from the great cycling here, some of the amazing things we think Japan has that really aren't on offer in other places are the hot spring culture and the hotels around that. The traditional hotels here, which are kind of their own world, they call them ryokan inns here. And then
not like an onsen, no.
Not like an onsen. So like onsen, it literally is like it's like a natural hot water source, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the onsen could be within a ryokan. And a ryokan is traditionally, it's just translating to like a traveler's inn. But it's really this old culture of basically really traditional style stay in Japan. Typically, you're staying on tatami floors. The buildings are going to be very traditionally made. They'll have a kaiseki meal, which is basically a multi-course Japanese meal for breakfasts and dinners there. And
does that vary wherever you're in the country you are?
Yeah, quite a bit.
Cuisine?
Yeah. So like for example, up where we are in the mountains here, we're talking lots of dishes that are made, especially in the fall. You got lots of mushrooms and persimmons. You've got local river fish, and fresh rice has just been harvested at that time. And if we're down in, let's say, the Setouchi, the inland sea down in the south near Hiroshima, where we do trips, we'd be talking lots of fresh fish down there, octopus. We're talking like they're really big on citrus. That area grows most of the citrus for Japan, so lemons and oranges and all that.
Yeah, super different. It's such a diverse country, isn't it? I think it's so easy. I mean, I've been there a few times, and it's even for me, it's easy to forget just the breadth, the diversity on offer within the country.
Oh, certainly. And just I find a lot of people have an image of Japan as this bustling metropolis, and that's like the only thing it is, like Tokyo or Osaka. But 80% of the country is uninhabitable wilderness. So we like to go explore out there and see kind of, what else is out there.
And in terms of the climbing, there's some pretty iconic climbs as well, isn't there, throughout the country that have become pretty synonymous with cycling.
Yeah, I mean, I've ridden in Europe a bit and done, Stelvio and Alpe d'Huez and some of the classics out there. And you can really find comparable and really amazing climbs here that go up to similar elevations, have similar or even more gain than a lot of the Alps. People kind of think of Japan as having one big mountain that's Mount Fuji, but actually there's hundreds of volcanoes in Japan, and many of them are well over 2,000 meters high and start at basically sea level.
Wow. Yeah, so this is all completely new to me. I should probably have done more homework. Most of your trips sort of evolve around climbing, or...
We have trips at 5 different levels, level 1 being the easiest, level 5 being the hardest. Certainly the 4s and 5s are revolving heavily around climbing, but our level 2 trips, for example, like our one down in the inland sea, is quite a flat course. Most of the climbs are just going up to bridges or, small hills on the islands. So we kind of have the full diversity of it. And we find that even with our self-guided trips, for example, even in a region that's very mountainous, there's enough river valleys that you can ride that we can kind of create these easier courses as well. Okay,
cool. So really you cater for the whole range of abilities in terms of from people that just want to get out and see a bit of Japan, because, there's no better way to see the world than by bike, right? I'm sure you're a big believer of that as well. But, typically what kind of groups are you getting through, or is it that whole scope?
We tend to get quite the scope. I would say a good half of our trips fall into the kind of categories 1, 2, 3, and then the other half fall into the 4, 5 category. The 1, 2, 3s are definitely a much more casual pace. Probably you're not on Strava, or if you are, you just use it to record your things. The 4, 5s, you're probably like, looking up how big is the climb and like, trying to get a time up some of the segments sometimes. Can get a bit competitive at the level 5s at times, at least for the first day or two before people wear themselves out.
But there's enough there that if, race teams wanted to come and do like training camps and stuff like that, you could cater for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of absurd how much climbing you can do here. Like, I have one route that I've put it down and I've, cut out the day to do it a couple times, but within 200 kilometers, you could get 6,000 meters of climbing if you wanted.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And that's round where you are.
Oh, yeah. That's just playing in the foothills of the North Alps here with us and our volcanoes around here.
And how far? You're an hour. There's a quick train out, you said, from Tokyo, an hour out to you. Is that right?
Yeah, so we typically start out here in one of 3 towns, Ashikaga, Ota, or Kiryu. We live in Kiryu, and that's the farthest of the 3. So our train takes about an hour and a half to us, but it's about an hour or an hour 10 to Ashikaga or Ota.
Okay, cool. And that's and traveling with bikes, people can get. I mean, how close is that from? They'll need to get in from the airport and then out again.
Yeah, so it's really convenient here to travel with a bike, actually, especially coming in for a trip, because what you can do is from the airport, you can literally drop your bike off at the, there'll be like a post, like a service counter, and you can just bring it over and for about 4,000 yen or about $40, have it shipped to wherever you're going, and it'll arrive there the next day. So a lot of our guests will just fly in with their bike and ship it to us. We'll assemble it, and then it's ready to go for your trip.
Hang on. So they'll do that at the airport? There's a service that does that?
Oh, yeah. It's fantastic. It blows people's minds. You can ship all your luggage. They call it hands-free Japan.
It's amazing. I love Japan. That's brilliant. Will you give me the link so we can put that in the show notes?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Find that. So given it's that easy, I mean, obviously, I think you mentioned before that most your guests are from the US or Europe or Australia, but it's doable for a long weekend as well, right?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. We've had a couple guests from Asia and Australia definitely come in for that.
From Australia for a long weekend?
Yeah. We're talking 4 days, so they might fly in one. I've actually picked people up at about 2 a.m. before so that they could sleep on the car ride out from the airport, get into the hotel, check in, and then we started riding the next day at like 9.
And I think one of the things is that sometimes there's a bit of intimidation around Japan or going to Japan, just in terms of it being so different, and it doesn't necessarily spring to mind as a first place to think about for cycling, which is strange given how amazing the cycling is there. What would you say to people that are thinking about wanting to go somewhere a little bit different on a cycling holiday, that want to get something more from their trip, and have either come across this podcast or come across yourselves? Why Japan? Why is it not intimidating, and why is it worth exploring or looking into further?
Yeah. Well, the why come here, I think, is, we've kind of gone over some of the points already, but really the cycling is, in my opinion, second to none. The roads are amazing. The scenery is just gorgeous around every corner. And the routes are kind of like this endless mix of valleys, volcanoes, oceanside views. It's kind of got the whole gamut to it. In terms of what's offered here that kind of isn't in other places, again, I think one of the really interesting pieces to it, because again, it's not just about the riding, it's about the full experience.
Yeah.
And the experience at the ryokans and the experience of kind of the food cultures out here, especially out more in the countryside, it's a lot more traditional living. It's a lot more kind of, how would you say it? I hate to use the word authentic. It's so overused in our industry, but it's a better word.
Authentic.
But it is, it's authentic, For example, our prefecture Gunma here and the neighboring one Tochigi, where we do a lot of our trips, there's almost no English speakers out here. Like, there are so few, and they're so kind of disconnected from Tokyo. It really feels like you're stepping into the real Japan. Not this kind of tourist-centric, kind of bubble that can often be the case of modern travel.
Yeah, that's very cool. But I also think that's one of the things that scares people about Japan, right? The fact that you can't read anything, you can't understand anything. What would you say to people that are a little bit put off about going to Japan?
Yeah, that's definitely a concern we get a lot with guests before they arrive. And I'll tell you, the first thing they tell us after they've spent 2 or 3 days in Tokyo and then came out to meet us, they go, "I can't believe how easy it was to get around Tokyo." Yeah. So the cities are certainly, they've modernized them in terms of putting English on the signs. The subways are very easy to follow now, as well as like Google Maps now will completely tell you not only which platform to go to, color-coded and all in English, but it also even tell you which train car you need to go into to make your transfers successfully. So
it's unbelievable. The transport system is it's hard to articulate just how amazing it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Unless you've been on it and experienced it, it's worth going just for that.
It's so reliable that one time I rode out to in the West Alps, the highest mountain in Japan, or the highest road you can ride, is called Mount Norikura, which we do in all of our level 5 trips. And it's at 2,700 meters at the peak, and you start in a valley at about 500 meters or so, 50-kilometer climb. And
what was it called again? What was the name of it?
Mount Norikura.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
We'll put that in the show notes as well.
Yeah. We'll definitely, I'll send over some info on it. But basically, it's about a 2,200 meter gain over 50K. And the best part of the climb is it's a national park starting at about 15 kilometers to the top. And that section, they don't allow cars on. So, it's amazing. Like, you literally pass about 1,800 meters. There's a marker. There's a gate with a guy, and he won't let any cars past except the bus that comes every hour.
It's just carless road the whole way up.
Yeah. So when I first moved here, I was just like so enamored with trying to get over there and ride that. So every like long 3-day weekend I would make a plan to go over there. And so I rode over one weekend, and I stayed there, went and did some different other routes around the area. And the following day, on Monday, I had to work, right? So I was staying in this hotel that was about halfway up the mountain, maybe like 1,500 meters up the mountain. And at like 4 a.m, with my headlamp on, rode down the mountain to the train station, hopped on the bullet train. Now, mind you, I'm 300 kilometers or so from my house. Hopped on the bullet train at 6 a.m., got myself over to our main bullet train station, transferred, took my local train over, rode to my house, hopped in the shower, and made it to work at 8 a.m.
No way.
I go in and tell the students, I'm just like, hey, guess where your teacher was this morning? They go, oh, your bed, your house? I'm like, no, it's over Mount Norikura in Nagano.
300 kilometers away. That is amazing.
And I'm like, that's because of your transit system.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. So, I mean, obviously, we digressed a little bit, but how long were you teaching before you set up Bike Tour Japan?
So I was teaching for 1 year here in Ota in Gunma.
Yeah. And then it was, during that year, you were like, right, I've got to set this up. What was the process?
I really enjoyed the teaching, but I was kind of finding it wasn't the right position for me. Wasn't the right role that I was looking for. And funnily enough, when the teaching position ended, I had kind of had it in my mind I've always wanted to go to Italy to ride there. As I got into cycling, I was like, you got to go ride the classics in Italy and France and all that. And a friend of mine put me on to this kind of, have you ever heard of an au pair?
An au pair? Talk me through it. Give me more context.
Yeah, it's like a French term, I guess, but it means someone who lives with a family and as a language teacher or a nanny.
Yeah.
Definitely, totally. So when the teaching gig ended, their year here, by the way, is April to April. They believe that the year begins kind of with the spring in Japan.
School
year,
April to April.
Exactly.
Calendar year.
All of it. School, calendar, business. Yeah.
I knew business was. I didn't know that their actual year was April to April. How interesting. So do they have a Japanese New Year?
They do. And they also have the Chinese New Year, and they also have the American or the Western New Year.
Brilliant. Three excuses to celebrate.
Yeah. There's actually a lot of Japanese holidays for the kids, at least. They've got kind of an incredible schedule.
No, I didn't know I didn't know it was a Japanese New Year as well. So so you finish up in April.
Yes, I finished up in April, and then a friend wanted to go to China, so we decided we were going to go hike a little bit, backpack in China for the month of, what has that been? Mid-May or so. And then, I basically did the, no, that was all hiking. No.
Okay. Whereabouts were you?
Yeah, all over. We did the kind of we flew into Shanghai, and then we took a bus to, I'm forgetting, Nanjing next to it, went to the Yellow Mountains, flew over to Chengdu, where the pandas are, and then went down to Guangzhou and kind of all the classic sites of the country.
Tick the box. Yeah. There's actually some amazing cycling in China, by the way.
I've been hearing,
it's insane. Shannon Buffton, who set up cycling, we'll have to get you guys together or get him on the podcast soon. But yeah, I went and did some cycling with him, and just unbelievable roads and super friendly people, and another really good experience place to go and cycle.
We had some guests who came in from Beijing, and they were showing me some of the photos of their riding just on the outskirts of Beijing, I guess, to an hour or two out. And I was like, wow, that's not what I expected at all.
It's so weird. It's the weirdest thing. You can land there and sort of an hour's drive out, and you've just got deserted roads. And similarly, I think the road qualities are out there are, again, like you have in Japan, absolutely immaculate, predominantly because there are just no cars where they built these roads. But yeah, fantastic cycling. Very good. So you did some hiking in China and then headed off to Europe?
Yeah, for about a month in China, and then headed off to Europe to spend the summer with the family in Italy doing the au pair thing. And then basically just every day was kind of a repeat. I would wake up. We were living on the northwest corner of Turin in a small town there that was right against the mountains, basically. So yeah, it was just like a dream. I would wake up in the morning at the sunrise. I would get out on the bike, go ride for 6 hours in the Alps, basically, come back in, take a shower, have a huge Italian lunch with the family and the kids and grandma and grandpa, and practice my Italian and everything, take a massive nap, and then wake up and teach the kids for 3 hours. That
is amazing. So you were teaching them music, were you?
Actually, English and music. Yeah.
English and music. Yeah, very cool. That sounds like a pretty good trade.
Yeah. It was good fun. They even they were a really outdoorsy family, which was super awesome. I still keep in touch with them, and they father and mother kind of had these alternating schedules, so they could basically have days with the kids during the summer, and they would always want to go out and have picnics out in the mountains because the father was actually from a mountain town like way out on the French border. And so they would be like, oh, we're going to go out and have a picnic out there. And I'd just be like, great, I'll ride out and meet you. And the kids were like 7, 9, and 10, and their jaws would just drop. They'd be like, you're going to ride all the way out to there?
What's the matter with you?
Yeah. And then I show up and they're like, oh, yeah, you were serious. After about a month, they just started realizing it was normal.
So how long were you in Italy for?
It was just under 3 months, probably 2.5 or so.
That kind of ignited the flame.
Yeah, it was. Then I get back to the States and I was just like immediately missing riding in Japan. I'm like, right, I got to find a way to get back there. That kind of got everything going.
Right. Sorry, I missed that. So you went to Japan just for a year. It was a year contract to teach, was it? So you actually officially sort of left. Okay, got you. So you went back to the US, back to New York, and were like, right, I need to go back to Japan.
Yep.
Japan does this to you, right?
It does. It really does.
Yeah, I have many friends who've had similar. So that's where you started planning. So did you start planning Bike Tour Japan from the US and then made the move, or went out and then how did it work?
Yeah, that's pretty much how it worked. We started off just doing falls, so it was very seasonal. The original schedule we had was basically just through September to December each year, and 2 years ago we added in the spring season as well.
So you're a few years into this now, 5 years into it, 6 years into it.
This is our fourth year.
Fourth year into it. Okay, cool. And are you based in Japan permanently now? You're over there year through?
Yeah, most of the year here. We do duck out a little bit during the summer to avoid some of the heat, and then we duck out a little in the winter just to get some riding in kind of as it gets to the colder months.
And I mean, can you ski around where you live?
Yeah, we actually can, and it's really good skiing here too. That's the other thing people don't realize about Japan is it's fantastic skiing. The weather is like perfect here because it just snows on the mountains. And yet where we live, we have a sunny winter, like probably 5 days of precipitation per month in the winter. So we're just getting this huge sun here. It'll probably be like 10 degrees at our house every day for the high, 0 for the low. But then you can go drive out an hour into the mountains and it'll just be like immaculate ski conditions.
Amazing. I love that. And there must be some times of the year. I love the idea of having ski and cycle days.
Yeah. We've done that a couple times on trips with people. It's crazy. I mean, this year's been a not a great year for skiing. It was kind of all over the place with too much warm days in the winter, but it's not uncommon to ski here well into like May.
Quite a long season, actually. I didn't realize that, which is kind of cool. And in terms of people sort of listening, we sort of touched upon some of the reasons why Japan is so good, but tell us about where your business is now, the people you got working for you. What can you offer, and talk about tell us a little bit more about Bike Tour Japan in terms of what you are offering or what's in the diary or what can be in the diary, and who have you got working with you now? Because I see there's a few of you've been sort of growing over the years.
Yeah, usually in our calendar, we have kind of a set one of each of our trips going in the spring and then in the fall. We kind of modify the trips to follow the seasons, which is kind of the thing they do here in Japan. Everything follows the seasons really strongly. So we try to do the same. So in the spring, we're going to kind of go between cherry blossoms, flower parks, try to do those types of things for a lot of our activities. Whereas in the fall, we've got a lot of fall foliage. Got things like sake is starting to be made towards the end of the fall. You've got things like the rice harvests and all of that. So there's a little more focus on those things.
There's a lot to do off the bike as well. So you can do, go do 5-6 hours on the bike and then go explore. I don't know how sake is made. How's sake made?
Yeah, exactly. You can go explore how sake is made. From rice. Yeah.
Cool. There's other stuff to do as well. There's lots of other additional things.
Totally. Yeah. And one of the other things that I didn't even touch on yet is the shrines, just getting to see and experience. Japan's got both the Shintoism and Buddhism, and the contrast you see of those two cultures kind of intermingling within the countryside here is really fascinating too.
Okay, so talk me through give me a very quick plotted history in terms of Buddhism and Shintoism and timelines and what's...
Yeah, okay. I'm by no means, a theologist on this, but the kind of, quick notes on it would be Buddhism coming over from India and then eventually through China and such comes over in about 600 or so through Confucianism originally, but then kind of modifies. Okay. Again, you can check my facts on this, but rough sketch. Whereas Shintoism is the kind of Japanese-based religion. It's kind of only found in Japan, and they kind of diverge really strongly on the idea of gods, basically. Yeah, so whereas Buddhism is kind of about Buddha, right? The classic about Buddha and his teachings and all of that, kind of a way of life around that. Shintoism is really a kind of more of a spirits, is a way that people describe it.
Okay.
And the kind of fascinating thing I see about that is that it's so seeped into kind of like the way that people even talk in Japan. There's actually two different verbs for things to exist. Like instead of saying like, Rob is here, there's a different is for a living thing and an inanimate object.
Right. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. And how do you see that the difference portrayed in some of the shrines?
So typically when you see the shrines, a Buddhist shrine here is going to be very red. The building will be painted quite red, lots of gold ornate. Inside there's going to be many objects and probably a shrine of a Buddha. And then Shintoism is really interesting because it tends to be empty. The shrine is made of very natural woods. Lots of whites and browns are the color scheme. And architecturally, they tend to look quite different. The Shinto shrine is the one you typically think of when you think Japan because it's very distinct. Yeah. And it's a very different experience at the two shrines, in my opinion. Some of my favorite shrines here are Shinto shrines where they don't really get rid of the nature around it. They try to build it within the nature because it's a shrine. Yeah, it's a shrine to the spirit of the nature. So for example, like our local volcano here, Mount Akagi, the shrine is built in the heart of the forest, and they kind of tried to like not remove too much of the forest. So it gives it a very like natural feeling.
Fantastic. And that local volcano you can see on our website under rides, can't they?
Yeah.
People want to check it out. Some of the photos look incredible, and there's a good description there. Oh, that's amazing. And I think that these are all the things. I mean, I've done Kyoto. Kyoto's an amazing city, isn't it? Just some of the shrines and temples there, absolutely spectacular place. And and another city actually with a huge cycling culture just for commuting and getting around. Kyoto's amazing like that, isn't it?
Yeah. Definitely. Kyoto's a really great place to hop on a bike and get around the town, see the sights.
I lost a trail of thought there because I interjected with the shrines and bit, but
no worries. But you were saying kind of with like riding with us.
Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure that people get a good sense of they can get out of it, because having been in Asia and not gone to Japan and then finally got myself to Japan, it's so hard to articulate just what is on offer there. So we've obviously talked that there's cycling for every ability. So in terms of the time of year is kind of key, not only in terms of geography, but in terms of what's on offer with regards to blossom or the fall leaves.
Yeah.
What about other things? I mean, did you have stuff planned for the Olympics? Will you do stuff for the Olympics next year?
Yeah.
Or what's the reason there?
Yeah, we have things planned for the Olympics. So if people are interested in coming, definitely shoot us a message. We're doing mostly private trips during the Olympics period. So if you have a group that wants to go, or even just a couple, we're taking requests for that period. What we're really trying to do for the Olympics is, because of what happens in Japan on a holiday, normally here, holidays, everyone has the holiday. So if you can imagine, you've got a country of 130 million people and they all have a holiday, it can congest roads pretty fast. So what we're doing is we're taking people out during the Olympics period to places that are really off the beaten path, that we know are not going to be congested, that we know are still incredible places to ride, have incredible accommodations, all of the things you'd want out of the experience, but we know we're going to get good riding in rather than being in bumper to bumper traffic. Yeah.
So just trying to maximize opportunities. Good. And in terms of yourself, what are your favorite 3 climbs in Japan?
Yeah, that's a good question. All right. Favorite 3. One of them has to be Norikura. I've ridden a lot of the passes in the Alps, like Iseran, Izard, like Stelvio, like a lot of the higher passes there. And one of the things that kind of always got me about riding there was that you'd have so many sports cars and motorcycles zipping by you as you're riding them. I mean, you watch them on the TV and it's amazing to watch the racers go up it because it's just bikes on it. But rarely do you get that chance unless you sign up for like certain fondos and things that might accommodate. But out here, when you climb Norikura, it's always like that. There are no cars. So you get in like a car-free last 15K of the climb up the highest road in Japan. So that's definitely one of them. Probably my second favorite, I shouldn't say, I don't know, they're all kind of for different reasons. Our local volcano, Mount Akagi here, is it's so much fun to climb. It's got 100 turns to the top, and most of those are switchbacks. And it's on a tiny back road that the cars are never on because there's a main road they can take up. And when you get to the top, you get to dive into a caldera. It opens up. You can see the Alps behind you as you're coming in. You've got a huge caldera lake with a shrine at the top of it that just like sits right in the middle of the lake. You get to take a lap around the lake. And then as you come down, you can come down on the main road, which is just pristine pavement, 2 wide lanes, and you just like fly down the mountain.
Wow.
It's like the perfect combination because you can avoid all the cars on the way up and then you can go faster than them on the way down.
Yeah.
And then number 3, this is kind of one that, this is one of our favorites in the area that actually doesn't make it onto maps. A lot of the maps, you won't even have this pass. It's called the Sakuhara Pass or the Ushitoge. Happy to send you some info on that. But basically...
That's a bike path, or it's a road, or it's just sort of no one knows about it?
Yeah, it's a road that is yet to be put on prefectural maps. Strava has sort of figured it out because of heat maps, but it doesn't show it. You have to go into heat maps to even notice that it's there. And it's very, very, very rarely driven. Only like the rare local would know it. I just went and did it last week, and it's a 1,000 meter climb from 200 meters. So you end up at 1,200. You start at 200 and got to the top of it, rode down the other side of it. And I was out for just that portion of the ride for probably 3 hours, maybe an hour and a half up, hour down or something. And some time to hang out at the top, and didn't see a single car the whole time.
Nice.
And that's just in our backyard.
That's super cool. And what about your favorite hotel? I can't remember what they're called now.
Ryokan.
Yeah. Favorite
ryokan. Personally, my favorite in our area, it's tough because they have different, things that you can like them for. Some are very mom and pop. Other ones are kind of more like very traditional styled and, kind of have all the aesthetic you would want. Other ones just have an amazing bath. When you get done with a good ride and you get to hop in this beautiful stone bath with all your mates and like just soak in like a hot tub after the ride and just, relax there. Yeah, let's see. Probably we have this one that's in our area that's called Yamaya, and they're really, really awesome because they've got kind of 2 options there. They've got kind of the traditional rooms, but they also have these like cottage style rooms. They have their own baths in each one as well. And each room is unique. So no guest gets the same room, and it's kind of a cool atmosphere. They've got these gardens around the whole thing, and everyone's kind of got their own ones. But then you get to reconvene in this big like dining room for dinner still.
Yeah. They're super chilled out, these places as well, aren't they? It's a very relaxing vibe.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The Japanese really know how to like create a relaxing, peaceful environment, which is just perfect after a long, hard day of riding to just get in and chill out.
And then on to food. What are your 3 favorite Japanese dishes that someone must try?
Oh, okay. Must try. Okay. My favorite dishes, some of these are going to be a little out there. Seasonally in the fall, number 1 dish, hands down, is the matsutake soup. So matsutake means it's a type of mushroom. It's kind of like it's like the porcini of Japan. Like it is like the most prized mushroom. It's rare to grow. It's hard to find, and they make this amazing soup out of it, which is just a simple mushroom broth with this like local, it's like a small lime that they squeeze into it. And they'll have it all through the fall season in our area at all the ryokans. And you'll have these dishes of like, all these awesome things like sashimis and different vegetables and things. But then whenever you get to the matsutake soup, it's just like to me, it's like quintessential Japanese cooking. It's simple, yet extremely good flavor.
Tasty. Yeah. That's Japanese cooking in a nutshell. Yeah. Love it.
Other 2, I'd be remiss to not say rice, having lived in Japan so long. It's funny how much when you first move to, I don't know, maybe all of Asia, but especially Japan, people talk about rice so much and they're like, oh my gosh, the rice. And you're thinking it's just rice. Like, I don't know, from the US, like rice is just this thing on the side of my dish. But it's like a means of mopping up my other things. But here it's a whole nother level. And every time I go to other countries and especially back to the US and have rice, I just go, yeah, it really is better there.
Yeah, this isn't proper rice.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. When I first moved here, people would talk about the textures, be like, "Oh, this rice is so bouncy and chewy, and it's just got this nice like teethiness to it." And I'm just going, "What are you on? Like, how are you getting this?" And I've come to appreciate it over the years more and more.
And the third one?
Third one, tempura Japanese eggplant.
Oh, I love it. A big favorite of mine. So good. Especially when it's done so lightly. And then last one, drinks, beer, whiskey, or sake. What's your Japanese favorite?
For me, it's sake. Our area is big on sake. And it's so, I used to do some touring in the wine country area of Napa Sonoma. And when I was doing that, they would talk about the terroir, right? Have you heard that term?
No, I haven't. Tell me, what's that?
Terroir is basically French for like terrain or like earth. So basically they're saying like the soil it's grown in, right? So you'd be like, oh, this has earthy notes. This has, you can really taste the terroir, you'd hear, right? And so I find it funny, but at the same time, I kind of appreciate it in sake. Like some of my friends are into sake, and when we travel to different places, we'll buy a bottle from the prefecture, from the mountain we visited, and then we'll try it. And you're like, oh yeah, this really does have a different flavor. I mean, just one mountain over, can have a completely different flavor to it because of all the minerals in the area.
There's quite a big sake market, is there? I mean, there's this sake connoisseurs like wine. It's quite a big thing.
Yeah. I think it's growing internationally more, but in terms of locally, it's definitely got its market here. You can get sake just like in Europe. It's like buying a bottle of wine in Italy can be as cheap as like €2 and as much as you want to spend. And it's the same here. You can go to any convenience store and buy like a $3 300 yen bottle of sake, or you can go and spend thousands of dollars if you want.
I think it was probably there or thereabouts now, but it'd be great to get some links to some of the tours you do, and also some videos. I know you've been doing putting a lot of videos together, just so that everyone can see. And if anyone's got any questions, just to reach out to you directly is probably the best thing.
Yeah, definitely reach out directly, or just go on our website, Bike Tour Japan singletour.com, and we have a contact form in there that'll just go straight to us, and we'd be happy to chat about that. And as for the videos, I've recently started a vlog. It's under Rindo Rob. Again, Rindo is the word in Japanese for forest road. That's kind of like our essence of riding. So if you went on YouTube, you'd find that. And I'm just doing kind of a project at the moment to try to better capture what it's like riding around here. Like you were saying, it's so hard to really capture why it's so great to ride around here. And so I'm trying to capture it beyond just photographs and stories and really take it to kind of like a more immersive feeling experience.
The whole bit. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's so hard to articulate Japan until you've been there, really. And it's I'm sure it's the same with the cycling and the tours. Is there anything else that you want to tell people, or that people should be aware of before we sign off? Yeah,
just to maybe reiterate kind of what you were asking before about the ease of coming here. We do get asked a lot from people that have been to Europe. What's it like to come to Japan? Am I going to be able to eat the food? Is it going to be easy to get around? And for the most part, eating the food here, it's quite normal meal ingredients. They're not kind of going off to the crazy end of things. They do love to eat anything out of the ocean, but if you're able to eat, meats, fish, and vegetables, you're going to be fine. It gets a little bit harder if you are, say, a full vegan. That is definitely a harder thing here because fish broth kind of finds its way into everything. But if you're able to do fish broth, at that point, you're basically good for almost all of Japanese cooking, that doesn't have meat in it, which is a lot. There's a lot of dishes here that are meat-free.
That don't, yeah. I've traveled there with young kids and haven't had a problem at all. And the thing that always surprises me in Japan is just wherever you eat, just the quality is insanely good, and the attention to detail and the service, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I like to think like if the bar in, say, the US or Europe is like at one level, like Japan's is like 2 levels higher at the bottom most spending level. Like if you're going to go get the cheapest meal possible in the US, the cheapest meal in Japan here is equal to like your medium priced meal in the US.
Yeah, and actually that's a point worth bringing up. I think one of the misconceptions around Japan is that it's astronomically expensive, and I think it can be, and it's very easy to spend a lot of money very quickly, but also you can have a wonderful holiday and really not spend much at all, can't you?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's certainly, a $6-7 bowl of ramen that'll fill you up as a big meal is very findable here. And then between the convenience stores, which is another thing we didn't even talk on a little bit on why just cycling here. If you come here cycling, for example, we do like self-guided trips where people would just come, we'll give you the routes, we'll give you the bikes, we'll kind of introduce you to the area. give you a map,
cool.
that kind of an interactive map on your phone that you can like see all of our recommended food stops, all the convenience stores, water stop. And if you come and do one of those, people are always shocked at how easy it is to find, well, a vending machine, they're everywhere, but also just a convenience store or a place to top up on food while you're out in what seems like the middle of nowhere.
That's so true. It is so much easier. And I think even with the sort of even when you get out of the major cities, even with the language barrier and the not being able to read things, a smile and body language can take you so far, can't it?
Oh, definitely. And people out in the countryside here are so kind. They really want to help you. So yeah, a good smile and a lot of gesturing. You learn some really good gestures really fast the first couple of days here. But they also do a lot of, what do you call it? Picture menus are really popular here. So a lot of just pointing can get you far.
Yeah, excellent. Rob, thank you so much for taking the time to have a chat with us. We look forward to seeing more of your videos and details up on the hub. And we'll get some up on our Instagram and YouTube channels as well. If you want to get in touch with Rob, we will make sure that all his contact details and links are in the show notes. And if you have any questions at all, please feel free to give him a call, drop us a line, and hopefully we'll get you back on, and hopefully we'll get out of lockdown and you'll be back busy touring people around Japan again in no time.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me today, Jules. I look forward to all that.
Good man. Excellent. All right, take care. Arigato gozaimasu. Is that right?
Yeah, arigato gozaimasu. Mata ne. See you later.
See you later. Take care. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. Please subscribe to the podcast. And more importantly, don't forget to download the Unfound app and join cyclists from around the world on the hub. We'll see you on there.